they are cameraless photographs called cyanotypes.
How do you spell that?
What a good question.
So, I hijacked this notebook. How you would spell it is like the color cyan. Cyanotype.
Cyan. I wouldn't have spelled it that way.
Me either.
Okay.
These are also called simply blueprints.
The cyano blue is a
Mm-hmm.
color.
Yeah, it's a really rich Prussian blue color, and so this is what it can look like. So it'll dry this color, but there's different shades of blues that can happen. So I was doing a mock-up for this book that I'm trying to do, and these are underexposed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very light pale blue. So there's gradation there. There's opportunities for, experimentation. So this is a very early photographic printing process. It was invented in 1842 by a man named Sir John Herschel, and he has a bunch of other little names in the middle between the John and the Herschel. But basically, he was like very, very much responsible for the invention of photography as we know it today. This idea that you can capture light and fix it. So a lot of people were using like camera obscuras, and they understood that you could reflect or project light as it reflected off of objects around us. But the problem was always, how do you fix light?
What do you mean by fix?
Fix means that if I were to show this, so people would open drawers, be like, I fixed light and I recreated like the landscape around me, and then they'd show it in light, and the image would disappear. So fix is literally like you fixed it. The image is stable. Like the image, the image isn't going to go anywhere. So yeah, sorry. These are all like, I'll probably be using a lot of photographic terms, and so when we think of fixing things, I think of like what I do in every relationship, and I try to make everything perfect for everybody. But this is literally like, this is where I went. Yeah, this
Some
is.
metaphors in there, right?
And instead, as a photographer, you could just be like, whatever, humans are uncontrollable, but I can fix an image to this paper because I can do that. So,
And perfect as it is.
and the thing is, like, I can control the variables as much as possible. Like, I can build a light box, and I can control exposure, and I can, like, not have to deal with wind. So you're already, like, experimenting, and there is still this element of chance, especially on a day like today with the wind, and it's partly cloudy. So this printing process requires sunlight, or just any UV light. So if you had a grow light or any kind of UV light source, you could do that. So anyway, this was invented in 1842, and then in 1843, a woman named Anna Atkins in England published a book of cyanotypes. And it was just literally called Cyanotype Impressions of British Algae. And she was a botanist, so she was just cataloging plants. So rather than an illustrator like carefully illustrating, which I think botanical illustrations are beautiful, but rather than doing that, she was just putting the plant directly on the sensitized paper and exposing it to light and using water.
That's so cool.
And they're ghostly. They kind of are reminiscent of X-rays. You are getting a silhouette of the item that you are putting on the paper. And in my case, when I work with plants, I think it's just a new way of seeing plant life around us. And so when I said earlier, like Gary Winogrand, a photographer, said he photographs things to see what they look like photographed. Today, you're printing to see what things look like printed in this process. And that's just a different way, different perspective. So what I do in this, should I just jump right into
Yeah, go
and
for
start
it.
demoing? Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, anybody can do this process. It's not challenging. You just go to B&H Photography, or I think it's called B&H Photographic, and it's based in New York, and they'll ship this to you. So
Nice.
this liquid cyanotype kit is solution A and solution B. And I don't even remember all the chemistry in here. I just know not to drink it and to shake it up before I use it. But it's really easy. It's 1-to-1.
Nice.
So I use my tablespoon, and I do 1 tablespoon of this guy. To be very precise, people will use little droppers because you don't need a lot of chemistry. And then I go to my, this is still wet, lovely. I go to my like local art supply store, and this is horse hair.
Very fine.
And it's but you can use like sponge brushes or anything like that to coat the paper.
Is it 1-to-1 with water or just 1-to-1?
Just 1-to-1.
Okay.
And do the different brushes leave different textures on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is like the finest, but I don't probably clean my brush properly. So, and then there's also just like buildup and residues, but it's all like very much showing the hand of the artist. So you could use that to your advantage. You could very intentionally show brush strokes and only like brush on and use it like really as a painting medium. There's just a lot of ways to go about it. So this is it. This is how you can get started. So again, B&H Photographic, they will ship here, and I think this is like $20. It's a very inexpensive process. And it's safe from the light because these bottles are, nice and contained. So.
And how long does that last you, those bottles? A good amount.
As far as expiration of chemistry, I don't care.
Yeah.
It takes me like a good 2 years probably to get through it.
Wow. Yeah.
You're doing a lot.
Yeah, I used to do more. But, that's the other thing. Like, it's just really like...
You don't need a lot.
You don't need a lot, and but you can print quite a bit with that. And then, a lot of times, like, I'll print and I'll just not like it, and it won't work. And for my purposes, for your purposes, this could be used to capture your travels. You don't have to use plants. Any other questions about it?
Can you talk about the paper?
Okay, so I literally went to, so this is the paper that I tend to use. I go to like the fancy art supply store, and it's watercolor paper and cold press.
It's watercolor paper.
Main thing is it's acid free, but also if you want to print on really acidic paper, who cares? Like, go for it. Just know it won't be as long lasting and stable. So I went to
so that
Walmart.
makes it. The acid makes it less stable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just like colorful paper.
You can do that?
Yeah.
Seriously?
You can use construction paper. This is like a very acidic paper though, meaning that it will like, you put it in light and it'll start to yellow and it'll start to get brittle. But I've seen cyanotype artists like coat papers that are different colors, and so like instead of the white, which is the base, you'll get like your purple, and sometimes that just looks really cool. So, you can really try different things. This is like a really beautiful paper. It's a printmaking paper that's cotton rag that I had from my art school days. So in art school, you would just start buying stuff, and then, and I think it's Bainbridge, but I just use these watercolor blocks a lot of the time, and they're also cheap. And then for this printing project, I went to Walmart and I saw they also had watercolor paper because I realized I didn't have enough. So I think this was, I don't even know how much this was, but it wasn't too much, so you can just go to your Walmart and just like...
You can buy it that way.
Yeah. So there is a difference between hot press and cold press, and like, it's just how paper is made. And you can also make your own paper. You can like get cotton pulp and tree pulp, and you like paper making is its own art form, and you could really go deep with this. Trust me.
Yeah, totally.
All right. Any other questions?
Ooh.
All right. So, and composition, and like, you just don't know what things will kind of look like until they're printed.
Better
like plants?
Yeah.
The plants? So what I'm doing, I've spent some time printing plants now, and I kind of know plants a little bit, but I'm not good at identifying plants. My grandfather was a naturalist. He wrote a couple books where he was identifying tall grass prairie plants in northern Illinois.
Mm.
He knows he used to know, he's passed, but he used to know the Latin names of all the plants. And I think something really powerful that I always think about when I work with plants is like, I heard one woman say, like, plants and all creatures want to have a name. Because then you're familiar with that, and you like giving something a name is like maybe a form of intimacy or love. So I try. I also really love weeds. I love the plants that are considered weeds because I think we throw away a lot of things. We don't give a lot of chances to a lot of things. And so, like, what is a weed and what is a good plant is, to me, just really arbitrary. So as far as textures, like, I know Daucus. And Daucus is most commonly known as Queen Anne's lace. So I've been doing these little notebooks where I realize, like, now I'm kind of going, so it's also called wild carrot, so you can eat,
You can eat Queen Anne's lace?
like, the root, yeah, it's wild carrot.
Never knew that.
The root part.
Yeah,
right?
the root
Okay.
part.
Raw or you have to cook? I'm gonna
Yeah,
start
don't know.
foraging.
I feel like cooking
Yeah.
most of the things. I don't know.
I like dandelion. I'm gonna see.
So you could, like, flip through that. So I did a little accordion book, but Queen Anne's lace is very lace-like, and so you can kind of see, it kind of is a blob, but then you can kind of see these textures.
Okay.
And the silhouette is recognizable, and so I think, like, people really like Queen Anne's lace.
I look for something.
I just did a book on, and I haven't put it together yet, but I just did a book on goldenrod. So the goldenrod, you know, it might not be as successful because I was just kind of piecemealing it, but the goldenrod has a really beautiful, like, plume. And actually with goldenrod, I did a print series where I liken it to, like, an atomic bomb explosion. So what I really like,
see that.
yeah. What I really like about this process is it's very surreal to me. Like, photogram printing surrealists did this process because it makes something that's everyday and common look alien. And the surrealists were always, like, interested in, like, seeing through something or understanding a symbol or understanding a dream. So, some tips though, the more three-dimensional the object is, the further, and depending on how well you can squish it under glass, you'll have these gradations on, like, the edge where the plant isn't directly in contact with the paper. So you can also play with that. You can put some plants on top of the glass or under the glass, or you can just choose to just tape it on. I wouldn't recommend in this wind just, like, letting it just go free-flowing in the air.
Just new thing.
That will be interesting because you could put this under glass and actually flatten this pretty nicely, and it could look really cool. So with these, the hydrangeas I was telling you, I'm sorry, I don't want to ruin
I've got a
anything.
whole bunch of things.
So I started doing a pattern series where I would deconstruct the plants, and I would,
do one and then
and it would be kind of like a Duchamp, like, you know, just like kind of like let the plants arrange themselves, because I realized, like, you could get these really beautiful, like, patterns, and it was just, so basically this printing process is all about composition too.
that's what I'm afraid of.
That's okay. You got it.
And
You got it.
composition is
I'm
so.
the non-artist of the group. Just
It's
saying.
okay.
No, you're fine. You are. Everybody is. So composition is like that, and the light is like a photographer's wheelhouse typically. And you don't always get it right, and sometimes you surprisingly get it right. And sometimes I think really hard about how I'm going to lay the plants out and how they're going to lay on the paper, and sometimes I don't think about it too much, and it's whatever. So anyway, I am trying to do another notebook on this plant, which I see everywhere, but I have a really hard time, like, just identifying it.
We were just talking about that plant.
Yeah.
So what is
It's
it?
just a grass, right?
It's a grass, but I think it's foxtail.
Yeah, I think it is.
And foxtail, so again, I love printing this plant, and again, it could be considered just weed, noxious,
And the foxtail.
but I call it cat's tail. So what I'm doing and what I recommend you do is maybe start with one. A little sheet there. Each of you get 4. If you want more, I have more.
Gosh, I'm so excited.
So what I'm doing is I'm doing the cover of my little notebook for Foxtail. So 3 might be really nice, and I kind of like these little dried out stuff. These are kind of fun to compose with.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have the graphic designer lament. I'm not a graphic designer, I'm a photographer, but I have to add text. So the other fun thing is
That's
like
I
interesting.
like the text.
you don't have to do just plants. You can put anything on
Yeah.
it. So I bought this tape from Walmart.
Okay.
What was I gonna write?
I lost my rose.
Uh-oh.
I did. Alright, I guess it wasn't meant to be.
Well, we can go out and get
And
another
you know
one.
what?
next
There's
time.
always more. There's always more plants.
I traveled far for that rose.
I actually
On the way to the road.
I lost a cicada exoskeleton. I was so pissed.
I'm sorry.
And it just disappears so easily into the ground. So I was like, damn it. So about this print, it's the anniversary of my grandmother dying,
Wow.
and my aunt texted me that that I need to listen to this Pavarotti Nessun Dorma.
Oh, I love that song.
Because it's my and I remember my grandmother like translating it while she was listening to it.
Mm.
But
what language was it
Italian. So anyway, I actually was listening to that and I was like writing a little notebook about that. And what I think is really interesting about like opera is it's a really bad reflection of what love is.
I like country western.
It's just like
Hey,
nope.
get the fuck down!
So anyway, but what I liked about the song, because I had to have it translated, was no one will know my name. Because it's a game. The protagonist, he is like, if nobody guesses his name by sunrise, he gets to marry this princess. Yeah, and the princess really doesn't want to marry him. She's made that clear. And so she keeps putting up all these obstacles. So anyway, I was thinking about like just that.
Talk.
And so what I'm frustrated is like just I want to just know this plant's name and I just want to know it because if I can catalog it,
Mm.
then it makes sense to me and then I just know it and then I'm like, but maybe the beauty is like we kind of give things names and we can
Yeah.
just kind of call things
Like
what
Frank.
we want. Just Frank. It's Frank. So I'm calling it cat's tail, but I'm writing a little note on foxtail grass, which is to say I'm not a botanist.
Yeah.
I'm not like
That's
gonna.
okay.
I'm not gonna have the skill sets that my
Right.
grandfather had, but this is still a way to like love and show love, and you're already composing, so
Yeah.
like you don't need to know
Is
anything.
cattails are cattails solid and foxtails are fluffy?
Cattails are solid. Like
Yeah.
they're in the water.
Yeah,
Yeah, come on over. And if you want to get started on a thing,
on a board.
on a board,
Oh, we should be using a board.
yeah, you
It's a little bit
should.
easier.
So I have a question about this flower. Do you recommend that I put it sideways, upside down?
I don't have
Okay.
any recommendations.
Oh, let me do it this way. This question, I mean. If I put it, what will happen if I do this?
So what's kind of nice is you can kind of smush it down and see
Okay.
what the glass will do eventually. Also, you don't like this would look so cool.
Yeah.
You're gonna make these really beautiful little detailed prints, and even just like seeing it on the green and like these colors, it's so beautiful.
It is.
So the problem is yes, like knowing how something's gonna smush down and look is kind of this unknown unless you like. So if I brought in sheets of glass that were a little more manageable, you could like
Smush.
you could put it on. So what I actually do in my darkroom is I lay everything out and I perfect my composition,
Mm-hmm.
and then I like clip it the glass to the backing so
Mhm.
that I
Yeah.
just all I gotta do is expose it to light.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, like a lot can happen. A cloud can come. Okay, so let me write this.
So you're gonna write your thing on there.
yeah. So
Plus
I'm
a
just
tape.
I love how these look. I might need to go get a
Paper.
foxtail and a rose.
You have 4 sheets.
It's gonna look. Oh, you're doing your 4. That's so
Yeah,
cool.
you saw me go in and you were like, that's what I want to do.
It just went across all of them. It's so pretty.
So, like I said, feel free to like try different things with this. You don't have to, and I'm like, letting the tape kind of, be seen, obviously. Okay.
If you have all four of them.
Do we have
easier.
scissors? No scissors? Somebody had a pair of scissors.
Oh, I did. It's in the
Cassie
kitchen.
has the
Check it.
scissors.
Oh, need another one?
Should I be using this one? Yeah. Okay. Feel free to. And I can get even more. I found some in your
Cardboard.
little, yeah. So you can do this really easily in any like workspace.
Val, you gonna join?
Yeah, I'm just gonna
Sorry if this makes
follow
sense.
you all afterwards. So I think there's only 3 pieces of glass.
Okay. All right. So here's the trick because I'm not putting the glass. So composing is really, it can be really frustrating because you get everything perfect and then a gust of wind comes and blows everything away. So this is where I am like taping. Actually, I'm
Okay,
starting
that's
to
great.
tape just a little bit, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with it being a little visible. I'm not gonna like cry.
Yeah.
Or be, and rocks can print really cool. Like
Nice.
sea glass can print really, really
Do
cool.
you put the rock on top of the glass?
You can.
Yeah.
So what I started doing is I started doing a process where I'll put the negative that I'm working with under glass,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll put the plants on top of that, and then I'll put another piece of glass
Yeah.
on, and I'm doing these, for me, kind of large prints.
Mm.
So it's
Mm.
actually really physically demanding because I'm working with glass, and glass is a little dangerous
Yeah.
sometimes. So that's just,
This is so fun.
okay. All right, so I want you all to just be really open to like, anything here, like
Great.
little clumps of
pieces.
stuff. I noticed when I smush these, so just be, also, you can tape your little leaf there in place on the back if you're really worried about it. But here's tape if you need it.
So we tape this and then these on it? Or
On the edges, on the
I would
sides.
tape the paper because you're
Paper, yeah.
working so hard on
Well,
composing.
I
You are. So, you know what? I might bring in this sheet of glass that's actually kind of manageable, and we might just.
And I'm open to suggestions on composition.
There's your shadow. This is where the sun is coming from. Okay. And it's a good, to lay it on the ground. Alright. So that's, now if you want to readjust, just because you're like, it's not too late. Alright, so then,
Get out of the way.
so you can time this, okay? You can say, okay, I know 2 minutes at 1 p.m. on October 11th. In Tennessee, it's going to be a 3-minute exposure in direct sun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or you can watch it.
Yeah, and it'll get darker, right?
It'll get darker, so you can see it was kind of a light green. This is getting darker.
Well, actually, it turned green yesterday, didn't it?
It was kind of a light green.
And then when you ran it with water, what is that process called?
Just fixing it, washing it.
That's when the blue came.
Yeah. So the water basically is in a traditional darkroom, we have to stop it from developing, right? So there's this.
Yeah.
There's a chemical called stop, and then you
Yeah.
wash it. So you're washing all the stuff off.
Yeah.
So
the
this
water-
doesn't have all of those chemical processes. So the water is going to wash the chemicals away, so it stops exposing or developing or reacting.
All right. So now it's starting to get lighter. Who's colorblind? Who can't see color? So if you can notice the tonality of it and focus on that, see how it's kind of getting
Yeah.
lighter now? That means the sun is really reacting with that paper. So like I said, you can make a point of timing this. I think we're probably about a minute and a half in. But this is really good. So this is, I know is going to give me a rich blue. So I'm probably gonna maybe wait another 30 seconds.
That's all.
In this sun, it's really hot and it doesn't take long.
So what if I waited longer? What would it do to me?
It would just keep exposing and exposing and exposing.
And what's I do? The color? What's it doing?
It's gonna give you a richer blue typically.
Yeah. But also, I think Allison's working with very thin objects. Yours is solid, right?
Yeah,
So hers, she can't expose it too long because it'll wash out because it's really thin. Yours is more solid, so what it might do is create a more solid line with shadows around it, kind of thing.
So this just got really light,
Yeah.
and I feel pretty good about this exposure. And I don't know, it's probably
Oh,
been
yeah.
about 2.5,
Yeah.
maybe like 3
Yeah,
minutes.
according to the video.
Now, if a cloud comes and a cloud is really hanging over, that cloud is blocking that light and it's filtering it. So I can do up to 20 minutes on a cloudy day.
The
You
UVA
can
and
still do it.
isn't the UVA and UV something still getting through, right?
Oh yeah, but it takes longer. That cloud. So
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm just gonna say this is done. This is like kind of a light green that's a little. It's just more gray. I don't
Yeah.
know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But it's done to me. So I'm gonna actually kind of just try to keep it out of the light now. Put this guy back. You can leave it there if it's too difficult.
Yeah.
And I have everything taped, so I
Okay.
don't really. I'm not too worried about stuff going away. But if your plants blow away, that's cool. So I'm gonna go over here in the shade. And all I really want, so this is what it looks like.
Is that stunning?
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's kind of this weird, actually I don't know how to, like X-ray
Well, the
effect?
X-ray, I think, is a really good way of explaining it, but it's a reverse, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's me removing the tape. So it
Nice.
showed, that's good, that tells me. So where it's really dark blue, that's going to wash away and turn white.
So that part was the chemicals that got blocked by
That's
the
still there.
object.
So the chemical is
Yeah,
still there.
it's still there, and you need the water to wash that away.
Oh.
And it's not going to fog. Like if I put this back out in the sun, then it would start exposing those darker points, and then your image would disappear.
Okay.
But it's not going to fog too bad in the shade. But I try to just kind of see, I smudged that ink on the tape. So that was my other like lesson with working with that with words and adding words was I was
Yeah.
like, oh, it's going to smudge if I touch it.
But
So
it didn't. You took it smudged after you took it.
yeah.
So
It's fine.
Okay, and then we've got our outside sink, which is fun, huh?
Perfect. So turn your sink on.
Oh, Tom's spider web there.
Yeah, watch out.
Watch out for Tom.
I don't know how to
It's
turn
so
you
strong.
on.
Wait,
Oh,
pink.
I think that
It's
it's
pink.
It's pink, so this
Yeah.
is probably like.
it's way pink.
All right, so I do this.
It's way pink.
I try to do this for about 10 minutes. Oh, sorry. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Don't worry.
And we can also adjust the water flow. Do you need it that strong?
This is perfect. So cold water is perfect.
Yeah.
I put the stopper in, so I'm just going to put this guy in. So just kind of make sure it gets wet. So you can see this is the process. It's going to kind of start to do a little magic.
And you keep it upside down so it's less exposure.
Yeah, I just try to kind of let it really get immersed in the water.
And you can stop at any point you want. You're just going for the most vivid one as opposed to a ghostly one.
I'm going for you an image, you mean, that's vivid, or
Let me turn
I
off.
guess image and colors and lines.
yeah, you can stop whenever you want. If you find you like the lighter blue, you can stop a lot sooner. I'm kind of going for a rich blue myself. I turned that off, but if somebody's drinking over here and I would like to just rinse this out. So kind of give it a few minutes to really get submerged in the water. So there it is
So gorgeous.
now.
And it will get darker the more it stays in there.
So it still has to wash, and yeah, in this case, it's stopping it. It's stopping the reactivity of the chemistry to light. It's, but it's also a wash.
Mm-hmm.
So cyanotypes are a very simple process. Your sunlight is your exposure and it's your development. And in this case, your water is your fix, stop, and wash all at once. But in traditional darkroom photography, you would have,
Is it 4 trays, right?
yeah,
Developer,
stop,
stop, fix, water,
hypo wash, and
hypo
clear.
wash. Yeah.
And then if you really wanted to make sure that print was stable for 500 years, you could put it in a selenium toner.
Uh huh.
So selenium.
Can you do
is-
that after it's already dry? Or do you have to do it during the process of?
I think
First.
yeah, either or.
Yesterday when you had 4, you were kind of shuffling them like cards with them upside
Yeah.
down just to
Yeah.
keep the water moving.
Can I see?
So So you've already seen the transformation. Because this was a really long exposure, some of that light was getting under and through.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had left it for shorter, like a minute, I think that this would be a lot more of a strong like outline of the plant.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll just kind of find
Mm-hmm.
Should we
what
do one at
works.
a time?
I can give you one because I know you set up that. So I'm gonna rinse this. So if it were a little less water, I could see some of that green chemistry in the water, and I would know it needs a rinse.
Yeah. So it doesn't need to be that full, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
But it's just good to kind of keep the water.
I turned it off on the thing. Yeah.
So it's good to keep the water kind of flowing always. Why not? There we go. So if it starts to get a little full, just unstuck the plug.
Oh, that was a mistake.
But you can also just like take the hose and rinse it off in the grass. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's more or less what the image is going to look like
Nice.
for now. How it dries. So also how these wet prints dry is a whole nother question.